A Moment with Tyranny podcast. This episode and conversation is powered by Homes with Tyranny. Hey, everyone. It is a Moment with Tyranny podcast, and we have a very interesting topic. And I know if it hadn't happened to you, it's probably happened to somebody that you know. And so today's topic is being a parent / co-parent. And are you sounding like your parents now? So this is a really interesting topic. I look forward to speaking with my guest on this because he's very close to me, and I am very interested in how he, how he looks at things. So go ahead and introduce yourself, guest.
Hello. My name is Steven Espinoza. I'm the son of Tyranny Espinoza.
Yes. So thank you. So you see, he's my son. So, this is going to be a real interesting topic, and to hear his perspective on, being a parent and co-parent. So let's just jump right on in, Steven. So being a parent and co-parent, you are a parent of my grandson, which is he 12 or 13 now? He'll be 13 soon, right?
He'll be 13. Yes.
Okay.
And
So talk to me about parenting. What I know that coming up with me being your mom and stuff, it was hard because I am that kind of mom and demanding, and there's a lot of times we didn't see eye to eye. So give me your thought on being a parent and also co-parenting.
So I mean, parenting in general, I gotta say that it's pretty cool. Like I really enjoy seeing like a mini version of me and kind of things that like I do.
Yeah.
Um, I'm a very like kind of relaxed person, and like I could just say nonchalant, as you would say. I'm a very nonchalant person. I didn't even know what that meant until you told me. So um growing up, I see that in my son too. I see sometimes he can be a like have a nonchalant personality, like, oh yeah, it's cool, and then like whatever, like just a whatever attitude. Um and I guess it does kind of aggravate me because like I want more reaction out of him sometimes, and he doesn't give me the satisfaction. So like, am I mad at him for being him, or am I mad at him for not giving me that satisfaction? But being a parent overall, it's cool. Like I love my son. I like I'm happy to be a dad. Like I love to see my kid and him going through his life, and he's gonna experience all the things that I experienced. I'm like, dang, I made a bad mistake, and he's gonna go through it, and I'm just gonna laugh at him because like, ha, like I did that, and like um,
And didn't listen to your mom when she told you not to.
yeah, listening to somebody that give you advice, it's different because when they yell at you and then they give you advice, it doesn't sink in the same as if a stranger would tell you.
And why
Uh,
is that?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess you build up like some resentment, things like that, because you're so used to like, oh, this person is lecturing me, whatever, and you lose focus on what the message is because sometimes it can be very consistent.
So have you experienced the oh dad, that is in your time, that's not in this time? Have you had to deal with that? Because I know with me and you and even other parents that I speak with, their kids seem to think that because you are older that you don't understand what's going on in today's world.
I'm gonna say no because I'm pretty cool. So I'm still hip. I'm not out there. I'm not old yet.
Oh, wait a
I,
minute.
I just got into my 30s. Like 5 years ago, I still was in my 20s. So I'm not that out of tune with the world.
So do you think that a parent that is like 40, 50, and audience, please don't get offended by this. You think that we are out of tune, out of touch?
Definitely. I'm gonna say that your generation versus my generation is definitely a lot different than my generation versus Adam's generation, my son. So I feel like our generations are very similar on things that we like and like we kind of enjoy like growing up. Like for instance, Pokemon. Like
Mm.
you weren't playing with Pokemon, and probably when Pokemon came out, you're like, I don't care about that.
Oh, we had
But it was
Pac-Man and Galaxy. We had all that stuff.
See, and that doesn't sound fun to me. That sounds retro game-ish, which is fun. It's okay, but you know,
But we come from a parents should come from a place of wisdom and not of fun. And what I believe is that, and this is only my opinion, I see the younger generations in being more of a friend to their kids instead of being a parent to their kids. And I think that that's where we're getting lost a lot of times. I think it's important though that you are friendly with your child, but I think that there are boundaries that you have to set. I see younger generations like your age actually hanging out with their kids and dressing like them and hanging out and drinking with them and all that kind of stuff. And how can you have that respect if you are exposing that kind of friendly lifestyle with a child? I think that's where the difference is that, there's boundaries, and I think parents have to have a boundary. I don't think parents should be hanging out, drinking, smoking, and all that partying and clubbing and whatever else, dating together. I just don't. I think that there has to be that divided line. And I don't see that happening with the younger parents and how parents co-parent in the younger generations. I'm hoping though that those roots come back, because that's what teaches a lot of morals and values, you know, in parenting. That's my opinion on that. And again, it's coming from my world. But what is your take on parenting and being friends with your children?
um, so I mean, when you say being friends with your children, like I don't, I feel like that's kind of being kind of straight like black and white with it. I don't think necessarily like because if I want to, hypothetically say I want to go have a drink with my son when he gets a certain age, that's me being his friend. It's more of I guess it didn't have to be drinking. It could just be like just us doing anything that maybe is like an adult status or something that adults would do or with like their friends or whatever. But I see it's more just like, hey, you're at a different age, like you want to keep everything age appropriate, of course, but hey, you're at a certain age, like, yeah, you can experience this, and like, yeah, I'm gonna be with you, and at least you're experiencing it with me. First, you can be with your friends and doing stuff, and you don't know any better. It's not necessarily like we're just being friends. Like, I feel like it's also still you're teaching them lessons, you're still teaching them um, values and morals. It's just in a different setting that maybe that's they're more attracted to, and it's why parents do that. Maybe it's not, maybe they're not the kind of people that need to just to sit down and talk, and do things like that, or be more just formal. Maybe their way of like connecting with their parent, their children, or stuff is doing something that they might consider as fun. Like, hey, we're gonna do this because this is fun, and that way, while we're having this quote unquote fun in this environment or this establishment, I'm still talking to you on a parent level, like, hey, I still love you. I still, can express different things to you that I could do in a different setting if I wanted to be more formal. So I'm trying to say. So, um, you know, to each his own. I'm not gonna say like you can't do this, you can't do that. To parent, I feel like I definitely would want to be, as you say, friends with my son. I wouldn't say it's friends, but I definitely want to say I want to relate to him on certain aspects. Like I want to play video games with him. I want to like, do things like that. I guess you consider being more childish. Not because like I'm being his friends, because that's for one, I because what I enjoy and he enjoys it. So it's a way that we can bond and we
Yeah.
can talk and
And I
yeah.
and I agree with that. And I think that it's important for you to do that. And I'm not saying don't play video games, don't do things together like that, because it's important for fathers and sons to play baseball together, or to go running and jogging. I'm not saying those, I'm talking about, going out to the same club and smoking together and those kind of things, and be there watching women twerk, and they're in that same kind of environment. That's kind of hard for you to try to teach this child to have those, be respectful if you're out there doing it in front of them, because children look at their parents for guidance. Children look to their parents for directions. And if you're not setting a good example, then your kid is going to follow those bad habits, is what I'm saying. So it's important that, yes, you do bond with your kid through the games and things that you like, but there's boundaries where, your kid doesn't need to learn some of your bad habits. That's just all the way around. Let me ask you a question. So how would you deal with a situation? Say that your son, that he's hanging with a bad apple, okay? But he's so convinced that this is his friend, but that it's not a good thing because of your experiences, because you've gone through things and you now can look back and go, "Ooh, I shouldn't have done that." If you see your son going down that same path with someone that's not good for him, what direction, what do you do? How, as a young parent, do you redirect your son or your child?
Well, um, initially, I'm gonna give my son the benefit of doubt, and I'm gonna trust him initially. Um, Regardless of what I feel, I'm gonna say I'm obviously gonna tell him like, hey, I don't think that this person's a good kid. I don't think that this person is X, Y, and Z, whatever, and this is the reason why. And then if my son is so like, no, he's fine, it's not anything, I'm gonna give him the benefit of doubt. I'm gonna give him a few opportunities to not prove me right. Um, I'm like, hey, okay, you don't get in trouble with this kid, you don't have any issues with the kid, then fine. Regardless if I like him or not, obviously you're smart enough to make the right or wrong decisions. And so I'm just gonna trust you on that. But if it comes to a point in time where issues are happening, you're getting in trouble, stuff like that, then yeah, I'm just gonna be like, hey, you're not gonna hang out with this person. Like I'm just gonna cut off all contact. And yeah, he might be mad or whatever, but like I said, based on my experiences and things, like I already know what's gonna happen. And yeah, I feel like I don't know, maybe, when he gets older, he might fight back on that type of thing. I think right now my son's he's at the age where he's young enough where I can probably say something that just will happen. So hopefully he stays that way. But if he decides to fight back on it, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to be like, okay, well, if you're gonna make your decisions, you can start paying bills, you can start doing your own stuff, like you want to be a man, as my mom would say, you can start doing some man activities and things like that. So I guess to answer your question, initially, I'm gonna give him the benefit of doubt always. I'm gonna trust because I feel like my son's very honest, he's very truthful on things. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna trust him. And then once I start seeing things I don't agree with, then I'll start taking action.
And see, and here's my thing, and just following up on what you said is like, okay, I'm gonna let him do it, and not stop him if he thinks he's right. We gotta be. There's that fine line, especially in the today's world, where that giving you enough rope to hang yourself could cause something detrimental to happen. And as a parent, I think it's important to try to protect our children from that. Can we do it all the time? No, we can't. There's things that we can't control. But if you just open the door and freely let your children go out and experience stuff and, hope it don't hurt you, today, even back then, really, but in today's world, you really can't do it because so many young kids are losing their lives because parents aren't being parents, they're being friends, and they're allowing the kids to do parent things or adult things because they're like, oh, he's going to make his own decisions. Well, that decision could cost him his life. It could cost someone else their lives. It could actually put them behind bars. And then you'll have the prison system raising your children, which we all know that's not the good way to get raised. So you got to be very careful on how far you let your kid go and how far you let your kid make their own decisions, because that's another difference that I hear between my mom's raising me raising you, and you raising your children, is that it's come down this line where we think we have to give all this freedom, and we really don't. We do want them to be their own people and make their own decisions, but they got to do it with the guidance of a solid foundation and values. You know what I'm saying? You got to root it. You can't just let them go out there and mess up. That's my take on it. And I think that's what I see, that is so different in how younger parents are dealing with kids versus my time and even my mom's time. It's just, and look at the news. You see the evidence of being a loose parent. I'll call it call it that, you know?
I can say definitely. There are some people out here who are definitely still caught up in living. I guess you can say like a teenage life, living that young adult life. Like I want to be in a club and stuff like that. Those are people probably dropping the kids off at grandma's house and going to the club on Friday nights, things like that. I mean, it's always going to be good and bad parents. There's always different people in different places in their life too. I think that plays a factor as well. If you've always been locally in your hometown and you're used to going to the club through high school and all that stuff, and that's all then that's all you're gonna do. But I think people like with more ambition and more drive are a little different. Like I said, you can always cut it different ways, but I would say I would say, as you say, being friends with your kids. It's not necessarily being a friend. It's more just being more relatable.
Mhm.
That way you don't end up building any like animosity or rebellious behavior in the future. Because growing up, like you were pretty strict on me about things like you couldn't go places, couldn't do stuff, and that made me want to do it even more. And I'm not saying I'm gonna give you enough rope to hang yourself, but even with you being as strict as you were, I still was introduced to things that could have quote unquote killed me, stuff like that, things that you fear, I still was introduced to. And yes, you did instill a very deep moral, like, hey, you don't need to do that, don't do this, whatever. And I got that. Um, but once again, when somebody tells you don't do this, what's the first thing you want to do? You want to do the things they tell you not to do.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying, hey, encourage your kid to go do something crazy, not anything like that. Just more just like we're in a world today where regardless if you don't want that person to see something, they're going to see it. Like they're just going to see it with YouTube, whatever it is, like they're going to see all this, anything you trying to hide. And so by not necessarily keeping them away from them, but like kind of like showing it and explaining it to them, like, hey, this is this and this is what we believe. This is good. We believe this is good, or we believe this is bad. Um, I think that's what's important. Like being more informative is a way to go.
Yeah.
And sometimes hanging out and sometimes going places is a way to be informed of other child. That way they're not new to the situation. Cause there's a lot of times where a kid will go get drinks for the very first time in a bar and don't know how to handle themselves. And then they end up in a bad situation. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying go take your kid out and go drink with them, but like if you tell them like, hey, this is alcohol, this is beer, this is going to get you drunk, and when you get drunk you can possibly black out, and you can possibly just telling them, like being just blunt and just being honest with them, and now they know versus not knowing. I think that's the difference between like me growing up with you and my kid growing up with me, because I don't think you would have told me, hey, you drink 12 beers, you're gonna get drunk and pass out. Like, I don't think you ever said that, but like if Adam asked me, I'm gonna tell him, "Hey,
Mhm.
you gonna smoke cigarettes? You probably get lung cancer. It's
Mhm.
tobacco, it's nicotine. You might feel a little buzz, but you're gonna probably get some side effects afterwards." Like, like you just being honest. Like, I'm not saying go smoke cigarettes, but if you decide to do that, this is
Know
what's
the
gonna happen.
consequences of your actions.
Yeah.
And that goes
So I
back to
like
what
that.
I also say, know the consequences of your action. And as a parent, that's why you said something. You said, you showing, being an example. It basically, you didn't say the word, but you're saying show them how to act. When you go into a situation, show them how to act. That's where I was saying be an example for your child, because your children are going to look at you as an example, or a role model. So if they see you go out somewhere doing stuff, acting, fighting, cussing, stabbing, shooting, they're they're going to think that's what you do, you know? But if they
Right.
see you
Exactly.
go up and be an adult and handle a situation in an adult manner and in an adult manner and you walk away from it unscathed and stuff, they're going to learn from that too. So I do agree, setting a good example is it. I'm sorry, I cut you off, Stephen. Go ahead.
No, no, you're that was it. I was just saying, yeah, just going out and just telling them, like, just being informative, just informing them about, hey, these are situations you're probably going to come across through in life because, like I said, you can't avoid the person next to you that's going to smoke. You can't avoid the alcoholic. Those people grew up the way they grew up, and I'm trying to raise my son to grow up a certain way as well. But in order for him to keep his head on his shoulders, I got to let him know, hey, these are the evils within the world. This is how you need to conduct yourself when you experience these type of behaviors, so to speak. So um, that's all it is. It's basically, I want my kid to be able to feel like he can talk to me, um, and be open with me, things like that, and I'm not gonna be so judgy or things, like, oh, I'm gonna lecture you now because you told me this, or I'm gonna tell you what's right or what's wrong. Like it's more like, hey, all right, I understand where you're at. I'm gonna respect you to have your own brain, but this is my guidance to you. This is what I want to let you know. Like, hey, do this X, Y, and Z because I've already experienced it. You're probably not gonna listen to me. This is what's gonna happen. I've told you. I just gotta let you live through it. And
And
that's honestly when they're older too.
yep, and and sometimes you got to let your children bump their heads. It's going to happen. There's nothing you can do. But as a parent, I mean, I have to say, a lot of times we say things because we love you. It's not because we don't want you to do something. It's because we love you and we know about what's going to happen, or we've seen things happen. It's from a place of love. And parents, no matter what, they got your back. They're trying to make sure that you're there. They're going to say things that you might not want to hear, but you know, as a parent, I can honestly say everything. Was I a perfect parent? No. I'm perfectly imperfect. There's a lot of things that I see that I should have and could have done differently. And that's part of growing up. And even with you, with Adam growing up and stuff, there's things that you see now, Stephen, that you think is the right thing, that as you get older, you're going to go, I could have done that better, or I should have done that better, because that's part of growing into being a parent of someone. It just is. And I always say, I have to do better than my mom and be better than my mom. And you got to be better than me. And Adam's got to be and do better than you and Lucy. You know what I'm saying? It just it has to be there. You see, you know what I'm saying? Um, but understand that from a place of a parent and a co-parent, when we say things and we do things, it's not because we just want to make your life miserable. It's because we love you and we want you to be around for a long time, you know?
You know how many times I heard that same speech growing up? Look, do you whip us because you love us too? Is that what it is? Do you whip me because you love me?
Yes. I beat that butt because I loved you, because you were hard headed and you wouldn't listen, and this is where we go back, from parents beating the kids. See, less and less though, parents are not spanking kids as much. Do you need to tap that butt sometimes? I think see, and I'm gonna get in trouble for this, but I'm saying I don't think spankings are abuse. You know, I think beatings are abuse. Okay. I think tapping butts and slapping hands and no nose and all that I think that's okay, because it affect it. And I'm not a psychologist. I can't tell you. So here's my disclaimer. I'm not, but I can just tell you from my experiences in seeing kids come up versus getting spanked. And then when I do say spank, not beat, there is abuse, versus parents not spanking kids. I've seen kids that have never been spanked and they're horrible. I see kids that get tapped one time. Now, I'm going to tell you a story, and I might get in trouble for this, but I'm going to tell you a story. I worked at a store years and years ago, and this mom did not believe in spanking her child. And this kid was tearing down displays, ripping stuff, throwing little onesies on it because I worked in the children's area, and they would always bring their little children over to look at this fantastic little bear that we had hanging from the ceiling. So you can guess where I worked, and listening to the chicken go, 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 go all the time. So they would drop their kids over there like it was a playground. Well, she didn't spank her child. It was, no, Jimmy, don't, no, 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 no. And Jimmy was like, shut up, stop talking to me, rolling on the floor, doing everything. And I'm sitting up there, and she left Jimmy in my area. Jimmy was swinging on the display bars and everything. Could have hurt himself. I said, no, Jimmy, don't do that. Don't do that. Jimmy just kept on, you don't, you shut up. Guess what I did to Jimmy? I tapped his butt. Wasn't my child, but you left him there for me to babysit. So, okay. When I
You
tapped Jimmy's
crazy.
butt, first of all, my manager's eyes got big as silver dollars. Like, oh,
That's a lawsuit.
you couldn't believe I said, well, he's fixing to tear up everything and he's not listening. Do you know Jimmy sat down and was a perfect kid after I tapped his butt? And then when he left, his mom's like, I hope he wasn't a problem. I'm like, you shouldn't have left him over here, But anyway, long story short, Jimmy was my friend. He was helping me put the display back together that he tore up. We were talking. We had a great time. I gave him a little egg out the little cuckoo thing, and he told me, bye, see you next time. But I had built that respect with Jimmy. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that kids don't need discipline in their life because, I mean, me personally, I think I want to have spank Adam maybe once or twice in his life,
Mm-hmm.
and one time it was well deserved. Like but outside of that, like I don't really, I see those kids as well. I see those kids getting out there and they're freaking yelling and crying and acting like they're too old to be acting the way they're acting,
Temper tantrums.
and
Yeah.
and mommy's just ignoring it. Oh, it's okay, just let them do whatever. And like I couldn't, like I don't see how they even tune it out. Like the fact that they're just screaming and yelling and crying is already making me irritated.
Yeah. Or
But
calling them out of their names, you know?
yeah, no, we definitely can't have that. There's no Dr. Phil in over here. Like we're pulling that belt out, and it's Mr. Belt time. That's what it's about to be.
Look,
Like,
but I
I'm
see
sorry.
that. But see, that's what I'm saying. I think there's a difference in the spanking and an abusive beating. There is. But I think that it's needed sometimes. But I think that the talking to first, I agree with you. Let's talk. Let's sit down. Let's talk. But if you just gonna keep on, we got to draw a line here and get that respect. But
For sure.
yes, but back to your comment. Don't think I didn't catch it when you said, how many times I've heard I'm beating you because I love you. I,
I've heard this whole speech growing up.
but I did the things I did out of love for you and wanting you to be a great man. And let me say this to you as I end this, Stephen, you had me scared for a little while. I'll just be honest. You were doing some stuff like, oh, Jesus, when. But you have grown up to be, I'm proud of you. And I'm proud of how you're raising your child and how you speak to him and how you're involved in his life and the man that you are and that you're becoming every day. So I just want you to know I'm very proud of you. And I know that I wasn't the perfect mom, and I know I stumbled along the way, but I'm grateful for you being my blessing. So I just need to say that to you.
I
So
got you, and I appreciate it. And there's a lot of times maybe when you did keep me from going out and hanging out, there's things, bad things that did happen in that particular day. Like I was like, I want to go here, I want to go here. Like, no, you're not going there. And there was bad thing to happen, and there's, who knows? Maybe I could have been on the end of those bad things, and so,
yeah.
Yeah, it made me. I would say I did get rebellious at a point in time in my life. But like at the end of the day, I'm still grateful for everything that you did. I appreciate everything that you did, all the sacrifices you made. Yeah, and so like I said, never. When you're younger, you never understand, but when you get older, you finally realize like, oh, okay, this is why they did this. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's all
Well,
good.
we're gonna wrap it. Thank you so much for joining me on A Moment with Tyranny. And let me again, I always have to end with a quote. My quote for today is, we never know the love of a parent till we become a parent ourselves. One more time. We never know the love of a parent till we become parents ourselves. I appreciate you. I love talking to you and hearing things. And we got some other interviews that we have with a bunch of interesting topics. So if you haven't subscribe to me, click on subscribe, click on like, share. Every Friday, 12 Central Time, A Moment with Tyranny. Thank you so much, Stephen. I love you, and thank you for giving me your feedback on being a parent.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Love you too.
Bye.
Mhm.